you have to see what it's like when it's good, but more importantly, you have to see what it's like when it's bad. So when money starts to get a little bit funny and things start to go a little hairy, you got to see how they claw out of it, you know? So we had a scenario in, I think it was 2021 into 22 when rates were low. So we were wholesaling everything. We were taking down some flips. And then finally we were like, okay, let's start holding some rentals together. And then we flipped it to like, let's buy a ton of rentals. And so we stopped. So we instead of we were still doing direct to seller, getting these contracts, but instead of monetizing them as a wholesale deal, we would raise private money and then we'd do the burr method on the back end of those deals. So money got super, super tight. We were keeping money in deals and we weren't really tracking it that well. And we knew we were making money, but we just didn't know where it was at until we kind of reverse engineered it. And we're like, oh my God, we have no cash. We have all these assets to speak for it, but this is a problem. I remember we sat outside our office and we were like, what in the world are we going to do? And we both looked at each other. It's like, we got to figure it out. So we both kind of just like fist bumped. We're like, let's go harder. We just got to claw our way out. So those are the scenarios, I mean, that you are going to get in with a business partner. Some people, they fight or flight and they run, they put their heads down, they go away, but not what we did.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I've been in those situations before. It's, there's always a shortage of something, whether it's deals or money or, time or whatever. And you got to figure out how to solve that problem. And that's great that you guys were able to work through that. Of all the different strategies, well, actually, first I want to understand how you source deals. You mentioned postcards initially, then you mentioned text messages.
Yep.
What's the main strategy that you found to be most effective and that you're using today?
Yeah, so we're doing mostly cold calling now. So texting, okay. It's gone up and down. So if this was 2 years ago, I'd say our main form is texting. But since the laws and regulations have been coming out lately, and I think it's kind of lightening up. But I would say 95% of our deal flow is coming from cold calling. So we have 6 overseas cold callers that are basically plowing through lists, and then they're dropping warm leads into our CRM. We have 2 acquisitions team members on our team that are just talking to sellers all day. So that's our direct to seller side. And then we also hired what we call our JV department, to where he's doing what I was doing before, which is relationships, wholesalers and realtors, and going out there and just being that guy for them, and going out there and just trying to follow up and kind of do the same thing you would to a seller, but the same thing with a wholesaler. And that's pretty much a free marketing strategy. So anybody that doesn't want to wholesale, that's a great method to get really, really good deals.
Yeah. So what does that bring in for the direct to seller side of the business? With 6 cold callers, what type of volume are they calling on a daily basis? And then how many deals does that turn into typically?
Yeah, so we're doing, I forget exactly how many calls they're making, but I think they claim they do like 10,000 dials a day or week. I mean, they're plowing through phone calls on like on a quadruple line dialer, even like, I think they have a 10 line dialer too, but they're just plowing through calls, going through a script, trying to get to the next person. And right now we're 40 leads from those callers we know is 1 contract. And we're about a 75% close rate on this contract. So every month we're doing 13 to 15 contracts, and we're closing usually about 10 of those. Some get killed just for seller's line because we're doing a lot of virtual stuff too. It's in our market, but we're locking up stuff on the phones most of the time. And that's a whole nother conversation. We'll talk about that. But yeah, that's our main strategy on the wholesaling side.
Okay. And are all those wholesale then, or do you decide, which ones you're going to hold on to? Or
at this point, yes, most of our first option on them is wholesale, because we're trying to just separate all of the entities, and because we have a full-time dispositions team member, which if he doesn't sell the deals, he doesn't make any money. So it's much easier now that we have, because I was that seat for years. Mm-hmm. And if I went to go keep it as a rental, it's like, oh, okay, we just pay our acquisitions guy their commission and and nobody's hurting. But now that we have that seat, it's forcing us to wholesale, which is why we started the JV department. Is like, okay, we're flipping 15 houses at a time. So we need to feed that engine as well. And if we're not buying our direct to seller stuff, it has to come from somewhere else. Now we are cherry picking some of the best deals or ones that we think we should get more on, but majority of them are being wholesaled.
Okay. And you mentioned doing this all virtually, even though you're focused on the Columbus market.
Yep.
yeah, what I guess what's the impetus behind that, and how do you do it virtually?
Yeah, so I would say our deals are done 75-25 virtual to in person, just because I mean time is your best asset that you have. And I mean if you're really good, it's all about a sales process, you know. So if you're really good on the phones, you ask the right questions, you really should be able to get somebody a pretty good offer on the phone. And it's not that we're never going to the house, it's just the first touch to that seller sometimes will be our inspector. So we'll lock it up over the phone, say, hey, Miss Susie, if what you're telling me to be true and all these motivations are something that we can help with, we can give you, let's call it 100 grand. But if the house is different than what you're saying, after our inspector comes through, we're going to evaluate, we're going to underwrite, and we're going to maybe come back on this price if it's not what you say. So I hope you're telling me the truth. So then we send our inspector in, they give us 150, 200 pictures of the house in a one-page report. We then look at it, we run a deal analyzer, and we say, okay, what do we want to dispo this out? What do we think somebody will buy it for? And where are we at on it price wise? And if they don't match up, we then renegotiate or kill the deal or pop it out and see what we get and go from there.
Yeah.
And then we'll meet people in person. There's always those stubborn sellers. So that's part of our sales process too. Hey, we can get this done over the phone right now, or I can come meet you and shake your hand today if you want.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you typically ask for a price from them that they want to sell it for?
Try to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember back when I was first getting started, I didn't understand this concept. And so you'd spend all day, getting a lead and then going out, meeting them, doing all this analysis just to call them back up and say, hey, here's my offer. And then they're like, that's not even close to what I wanted, and so I think it's so smart to reverse engineer that and just, work with the people that are most negotiable, are in the situation. People think, well, you're giving these lowball offers. It's that you're finding people who, have a problem in a situation that they cannot solve by
Yep.
selling the house on the MLS.
Yep.
Like I can't tell you how many hoarder houses we bought and how many, one lady called me who was locked out by the health department because her house was so
Oh
nasty.
my
I mean,
goodness.
like dead animals and stuff inside. Like those are the types of people, they're not listed on the MLS. So,
That's part of our sales process too. Sorry to cut you off there, but
no, not
that's
at
part of
all.
our sales process is we literally tell them that. So, hey, if you're looking for the highest and best price for your house, listed on the market.
Yeah.
And if they're like, oh, okay, I'll go list on the market, then you're not talking to somebody motivated. But you just gave them that option. If they still continue to talk to you, there's something that you have to peel back the onion a little bit and figure out what's really going on in that situation. Why are they talking to somebody that they already told you they're not going to be the highest offer?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 95% of people should sell on the MLS, but that
Absolutely.
5%, that's the people that it can be a great win-win for. So, um,
100%.
your team then, it sounds like you have quite a few team members. What is
Yep.
that? What is the breakdown of that? You already mentioned the cold callers, the acquisitions team members, the JV team member, the dispo guy. Who
Mhm.
else do you have on the team?
Yeah, so I don't really count the cold calling people as our team members. Those are just kind of outsourced subcontractors, I would
Okay.
say. But we do have virtual assistants outside of that. So we have two data managers. So we're really tight with our data on our wholesale side. We're not really a spray and pray type wholesale company. We use a lot of REI Sift. I'm assuming we use a lot of REI Sift, a lot of things like that to try and save money. And we also have a lead manager on that side. So three VAs on the acquisition side, one on the dispo side, and then we have a full-time in-house transaction coordinator. So our wholesaling company has 3, 4 people on staff, and then 4 virtually in the
Okay.
Philippines. And then our
Wow.
flipping company, we have 2 project managers. I have a full-time content guy. So for our social media, I always miss people. Full-time property management team member, a VA on that side too, and then a full-time maintenance guy. And then we also have the JV acquisitions team member as well.
Hmm.
I think that's it.
Okay. And how did you decide when it made sense financially to hire these different individuals?
It all started to us on the acquisition side. So with the end in mind, what do we want our business to look like? We want autonomy, we want lifestyle freedom, and we also want to build a business that we don't have to be stuck in every single day. And I learned a lot of this from my business partner, Andy. I don't talk about him a whole lot. If anybody's on here and follows me on social media, you may not even know I have a business partner, and that's by design. He actually went bankrupt when he was 22.
Hmm.
So he went bankrupt when he was 22. He had a business partner in the car lots that passed away, signed everything over to him. He was getting sued. He signed a cognizant note on a bunch of cars, and they came down on him and took it all. So a lot of those lessons that he learned from that really trickled down into why we do what we do now. So he knew that he'd been on the phones for a long time, and he did it for 10 years. And he's like, I do not want to talk to sellers all day, every day. I put my time in. First person we're going to hire is in acquisitions. So you got to keep any real estate business, really, leads and acquisitions are going to be the lifeblood of your business. And you can't stop that. So if you want to get out of it, you got to train somebody. You're going to take a couple steps back to take a bunch forward to go work on whatever you want to work on. And then everything else just kind of came out of necessity. Our businesses are a lot of, when we both put our heads together and we go at something hard, things change really fast. It works, but it's like we call it a leaky bucket. We've got 5 holes and 4 hands. When we start plugging one, the other one starts leaking, and we start to do this all the time. And it's kind of it's a good thing to have, and it's also bad because we change focus to certain things every now and again.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And so how do you spend your time? Like, what's your main focus now as the guy who's running these teams?
Yeah, most of my time is bigger picture items. So I'm raising a lot of capital. I'm raising actually all the capital for our deal. So everything has now kind of almost stems from social media. So social media has grown really, really bigger in the past 2-3 years. And everything kind of stems from there. So I raise a lot of capital on there, spend a lot of time. It's just crazy going from being a home inspector where you wake up and you work and you make money to just the way work changes, And I still have a hard time wrapping my head around that. Like if I'm going to golf with a private money lender, I still feel bad about doing it because I feel like I'm not actually working, it's just such a weird mindset and conceptual thing. But anything that moves the business forward, go to masterminds, meet with people, host events. I host networking events in Columbus, make content, stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. And then I was going to ask you about the list that you're calling to, that you give your cold callers. What type of leads are those, and where are you getting them from?
Yeah, everything we get is from PropStream and then free lists. So $99 PropStream account, and a lot of times we're getting free and clear, high equity bank, and like we're just pulling those every single month. And then what we do is we also pull code violations, evictions, tax delinquents, water shutoff lists, all free lists from your county.
Hmm.
And what we do is we pop those into REI sifts, which will then stack them. So anything that's on those lists, both of them. So say somebody's on a free and clear list and also a code violation, we're definitely going to target market them because that's a higher likeliness of motivation and can sell at a discount. Because you can have the most motivation in the world to sell a house, but if you just bought it last year at top dollar, I can't really do anything for you unless I sub to it, which is not really our strategy either. So I want somebody that can sell at a discount and be motivated as well.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. And then of the different strategies that you do, have you identified one as being the most profitable, or are they all similarly profitable?
Wholesaling is definitely the most short-term profitable. It's pretty crazy. We've been wholetailing a lot more too. So taking stuff from wholesale to retail, that's been pretty great as well. But I mean, long-term is going to be the holds on the assets and restructuring debt and pulling out tax-free money. That's really the long play on what I want to do.
Yeah. And have you found it harder to find buyers for your wholesale deals with the market kind of shifting?
Yeah, it's been really weird and cyclical, I mean, last maybe August to September, or no, to like December, it was dead. Nobody was buying anything. And then something happened around like February and people started to buy again. And it's been a little bit slower recently, which is weird. So I don't know what happens. It kind of comes in waves, and I can't really put a pulse to it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard different things. So I think you're absolutely right. It just is like little cycles. And from the rental side of things, though, what type of rental properties are you guys targeting that you like to hold?
Most of our stuff is 1 to 4s. So if you've ever been to Columbus, Ohio, a lot of duplexes, a lot of small multis. So a decent on our portfolio is duplexes, a 3 unit, and a lot of single families. I mean, it kind of just came from, I mean, most of our target marketing is single family people that have things they want to sell. So not a lot of large multis. But with that being said, I mean, we will buy small multis. We've got a couple 8 units, a 9 unit. Um, my office building I own, we're buying a 32 unit office building right now. So I understand that side. I actually really, really like commercial banking, financing, that type of stuff. I'm kind of a math nerd, but not as much my main strategy.
I see. Okay. And are these primarily turnkey properties? Are you doing the Burr method, or what does that look like?
I'm doing the Burr method on everything. If I can't have if I can't buy it super discounted and then put my own construction into it, I probably am not going to do the deal.
Oh, okay. What's the metrics that you use to determine that it is a good deal?
I mean, I'm just looking at ARV. I'll take the ARV times 75% minus my rehab and money costs, and then boil it down to purchase price. And then so that hopefully I can get all of my money out. But to me, that's a pipe dream. I hate anybody that'll say online that they have their whole portfolio they've never had a dollar in. I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous,
Right.
you know. So I'm not afraid to keep cash in. So when I do keep cash in, what's my cash on cash?
Yeah.
What's my return I'm actually making on my money? Because when I told you that we almost went bankrupt, like in 2022, we had no cash. We weren't looking at that. You know, we were so focused on just keeping assets. Deals were cash flowing, but it's like, well, if you keep 60 grand in on a deal that the ARV is 300, I mean, you might as well just go buy a turnkey asset at that point. You know, so really looking at where your money's at, and don't fall in love with owning rentals so much that you get yourself broke.